The following program is an original production of WYCC PBS Chicago.
Tonight, many take it for granted having healthy food options at nearby grocery stores. But in some Chicago neighborhoods, fruits and vegetables are nearly impossible to find. They are virtual food deserts. Tonight, how the city is trying to change that.
Belly up to the bar, but leave your gun at home. Chicago's controversial new gun laws in the wake of concealed carry.
Plus, scrapping for dollars. Recycling can mean big bucks. How you can turn your old junk into profit with a little know-how. Those stories and much more tonight on In the Loop. Good evening. I'm Chris Bury.
And I'm Barbara Pinto. Tonight, a closer look at food deserts in Chicago.
An estimated 380,000 Chicagoans currently live in food deserts, areas designated as lacking easy access to fresh, healthy, and affordable food.
Mayor Emanuel campaigned on a promise to increase access to healthy food. There's been some progress, a new Walmart supercenter in the Pullman neighborhood, and plans to build a Whole Foods store in Englewood. But the problem persists.
Tonight, we take a journey with a woman who has to travel many miles outside of her community to find healthy food for her family.
I'll take 63rd Street bus down to the shuttle bus, the red line that is closed down, and I'll take the shuttle bus down to 87.
When 40-year-old Michelle Martin, a single mother and lifelong resident of Englewood, goes grocery shopping, it can be an ordeal. A 30-minute journey on 2 different buses, but a journey she says that is necessary and worth it.
You're going to save at least $1 to $2 per product at another store. So you have to travel. It's worth the travel.
Englewood is dotted with corner mini-marts that carry a limited selection of groceries, most of it junk food, few, if any, fresh fruits and vegetables. And Michelle doesn't trust the quality at those stores.
Grocery stores, they use a lot of the dyes to dye the meat. You know, they put the meat under the light, got you thinking that you're purchasing something good and you get it home and it's not. It might be green when you get it home.
Michelle says having to travel so far just to find a decent grocery store is a painful reminder of how poor neighborhoods are isolated.
It makes not only me, but it makes a lot of us feel like a lost community.
7 years ago, more than 600,000 Chicagoans lived in food deserts like Michelle's neighborhood. While that number has been reduced by about 40%, an estimated 380,000 residents still lack access to healthy choices. According to researcher Mari Gallagher, the food deserts are concentrated on the city's west side, south side, and far south side, predominantly African-American communities.
There you go, love. Thank you. Make sure you wash them, okay?
A few years ago, a nonprofit called Fresh Moves started bringing produce into Chicago's food deserts on converted CTA buses, offering a ray of hope. But the operation folded due to a lack of funds after losing about $300 a day. But now the upscale grocer Whole Foods has announced it would build a store on a vacant lot in the heart of Englewood, with the city pitching in $10 million.
We're going to do this together with the community. We're going to do it in an inclusive manner, in a respectful manner. We realize the first step is to listen to what people in Englewood actually want.
Mayor Rahm Emanuel points to the Whole Foods development as part of a comprehensive approach to food deserts, but Emanuel knows residents in some neighborhoods still have a hard time getting fresh, healthy food.
You have no idea how difficult it is for people throughout the city, in parts of our city, to just be in their neighborhood and get the same access that other people take for granted.
With her shopping done, Michelle leaves the jewel store on 87th and the Dan Ryan and walks out to catch the bus back to her house. Arriving home with her bags of groceries, Michelle is skeptical about the new Whole Foods store being planned for Englewood.
Whatever you build, just give us quality and keep it quality. Don't start out quality to get our money and take it away and think that we're supposed to just purchase whatever you have there.
In 2006, Mari Gallagher popularized the phrase food desert after her pioneering study revealed a striking lack of healthy choices here in Chicago. She is now the principal of Mari Gallagher Research and Consulting Group, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So the Whole Foods coming to Englewood, does that fill a need? You heard the concern about price there from Michelle Martin.
Right. Absolutely it does. Unfortunately, in many of these neighborhoods that we're talking about here today, it's hard to find healthy food, and when you finally find it, it may not be in good condition, it may cost a lot. So this is a game changer, the Whole Foods. It's good news.
Crane Chicago Business did a little shopping price comparison last week, and they found that Whole Foods, gallon of milk, $1 more than Dominic's and Jewel, eggs, $1 more a dozen, bread, $2 more a loaf. Is that affordable, those kinds of prices for the poor communities?
Well, remember, the Whole Foods that's coming into Englewood, it's going to be a smaller format. It's about a little over 18,000 square feet. It's different than their typical store. They have a prototype already in Detroit. They will be selling what they call everyday essentials at more affordable prices. So if you want to go out and eat just junk food or go to the fast food restaurant every day, there's nothing wrong with little fast food, but you can find cheap food out there, but it may not be nutritious. It may be full of calories, but empty in nutrients.
We saw Michelle Martin in that setup piece having to ride 2 buses just to get to a decent grocery store. Is that typical for people who live in those food deserts?
Right. Well, many of those residents do not have cars. Our latest estimate was about 40,000 households in the food deserts. And thank you for sharing that 380-some thousand number. That was from 2011. It's going down a little bit, but we still have a huge problem. And residents like Michelle, do have to travel farther, and sometimes, it's hot, you're busy, you have to take your kids to work. It's not an easy task to get to the store.
And are single mothers like Michelle, are they disproportionately affected by this?
Right. We found a very high concentration of single mothers in the food desert. Very concerned about that. Also a high concentration of grandparents as primary caregivers to grandkids, but we do have regular kinds of families too, and we also found 10,000 households that earn over $100,000 a year or more, so not everybody is poor in the food desert.
What does it mean for a family's nutrition if they live in one of these communities, and what are the real long-term health impacts of that? Right.
Well, when we have a little snack now and then, it's not bad, we all do it, but remember that we all do eat as part of the human condition, so what it means is a family, like any family, looks for food every day. Hopefully you can shop and, stock up a little bit, but it means that, day in, day out, you might have to turn at least sometimes to the things right around you in your environment. And as we saw in that clip, that could mean the liquor store down the street that's also the SNAP retailer. It could mean the dollar store. It could mean the gas station mini mart. So it's difficult.
And in terms of real health impacts on it, you've done some research on this.
Right, and so what we found after looking at other contributing factors, health and environment is a complex equation, but we found statistically significant relationships for these food desert residents with greater diet-related death, greater diabetes, more obesity. So it's a stark condition, and we have found similar patterns all around the country. It's not just Chicago, it's in many other places. So it's a problem, and fortunately, many people are stepping up to address it.
And obviously, many children are in this environment.
Right. Unfortunately, the last estimate that we did for the Chicago food desert found enough children that you could put them on just numbers of school buses and line them up, and back to back it would be 17 miles of school children. So
17 miles of school children.
It's a serious problem, and children especially are vulnerable. They're at a stage in their life when they're growing, they're developing, they need to have food, good food to pay attention
and it affects their ability to learn.
Right. It's like starting life with a deck stacked against you.
Many of these stores in these communities are party stores and liquor stores and these sort of one-stop places, yet they get a lot of assistance from the federal government in terms of what used to be called the food stamp program is now called the SNAP program. In some ways, does the federal government contribute to the food desert issue?
Well, we did a study in Detroit, and we found that those fringe retailers that were part of SNAP were actually contributing to more diet-related death. But I don't actually fault the USDA for that. I think all of us, the public, and certainly Congress has to help appropriate money for compliance. There are 2 problems with the SNAP program. 1, standards are too low, and 2, we're not following even those low standards. So we're talking now about changing some of those rules and regs. Hopefully money will go along with it to ensure that these stores comply. So
we've seen that a Whole Foods is coming to Englewood. We've seen just in the last week a new Walmart open up in the Pullman community on the far south side. Are substantial efforts being made, and is it enough here in Chicago?
Well, there's not one single problem and there's not one single solution. That's good news. It means all of us can do something, even the people watching this show right now. I think it's a great effort. We have made substantial progress, and there's also other resources out there in urban ag and food hubs, and I think we all have to look to our passion and step in and do what we can so that we can make healthy choice the easy choice. You say we all need to step in. Give us an idea of what ordinary people can do about this, viewers. All right, for one thing, you could have a smaller plate size when you have dinner instead of a big one. You could try to choose fruits and vegetables more often. You could drink more water, and certainly instead of drinking more soda. You could help a senior on your block get to the store. Many seniors, even well-to-do ones, are inside their homes without the same ability to cook or shop, even if they live down the street from the store. There's so much we can do. We can start a walking club. There's a lot. So we don't have to all think we need to wait for the big store. It is nice when the good big store comes. Believe me, it makes a big difference. But we all need to pitch in. Mara Gallagher, on that note, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate it. Thank you. Now for some other trending stories. Should guns be banned from bars and restaurants? And the mayor takes the couch on late night TV. Here's Barbara with more.
Thanks, Chris. In addition to those stories, a new smartphone app draws criticism, and you could pay dearly for biking on the sidewalk.
Booze and bullets simply don't mix.
New gun laws in the city of Chicago mean new signs in restaurants and bars declaring them gun-free zones.
They can put it on the books if they want, but who's going to check for a concealed weapon?
Illinois' concealed carry law goes into effect the first of the year. Rahm Emanuel took the late-night hot seat this week. The mayor joined David Letterman to promote a new documentary about White House chiefs of staff. Letterman and the mayor discussed everything from Syria to violence here in Chicago.
What I hear about Chicago now is, oh, don't go to Chicago. Yeah. The violence is unbelievable. Yeah. Now, tell us why people say that.
Actually, it's on its way down. We're down 25%, 24% on shootings and crimes. So.
A new cell phone app may get you out of a ticket for a fee. Subscribe to the Cobra iRadar app for about $5 a month or $50 a year. You'll get alerts sent to your smartphone as you approach red light and speed cameras.
Ultimately, if they know where the camera is, they're probably going to be more cautious, and that'll probably benefit the neighborhood overall. So I think I'm overall in favor of the app.
I probably wouldn't buy it, but that's because I'm a poor college student and really don't have any money.
Bike riders beware. Riding on the sidewalk in one North Side neighborhood could be dangerous to pedestrians and your wallet. Two wheels on the sidewalk on Sheridan Road could cost you a $200 fine.
I think that's a good way to not get those paid, because people are just going to crumble them up and throw them away and not deal with it.
I think 25 is more reasonable than 200. That's crazy.
And joining us to give us their take on these stories are real estate broker Ron Miller, business reporter for WBEZ Susie Ahn, and founder of Jellyvision Lab and Jackbox Games, Harry Gottlieb. Welcome to you all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Just this week, the City Council passed a measure that requires bars and restaurants to post signs on their doors declaring them gun-free zones. Ron, is this a good idea?
I think it's a great idea. Certainly bars, liquor and guns don't mix. I'm not an opponent of concealed carry, and I think that it's only common sense to not have bars and guns together.
Harry, how do you enforce something like this, though?
Off-duty cops, metal detectors, which I'm sure the bars are excited to hire, and off-duty cops and put metal detectors. The thing that I think is interesting about this with the signs, like I don't know why a bar owner wouldn't just do it, because it probably, they don't have to enforce it. But the NRA argument is sort of interesting, because they're like, look, if you put a sign up, it's like telling the bad guys, like, come rob this bar. Nobody's got a gun in it. But the problem with the argument is that if I understand it though, the way it's written, the owner can have a gun. And so as long as the sign says, you know, no guns allowed except the owner's guns, then I think, you know, it sort of solves the problem.
Yeah, part of what makes this a little confusing is that these bars and restaurants who don't post the signs risk losing their liquor licenses, for one thing. And under the city ordinance, off-duty police officers, retired police officers, and the owner of the establishment can still carry a gun. Susie, do you think that this kind of mishmash of state and city laws are confusing to people?
I think definitely they're going to be confusing, and I think, you know, ahead of us, there's going to be a lot of lawsuits. There's going to be people debating whether this can be enforced properly, even before you get to the lawsuits. So it'll be interesting to see once this actually does go forward, you know, how do you actually check who is carrying a concealed weapon or not?
Yeah, the NRA has also argued that this is beyond the scope of the city council. Harry, is it?
I don't know. I mean, school districts can say students can't bring guns into schools. And the Supreme Court cases allow for some reasonable restrictions. So I don't know why it would be.
Now, the NRA also is declaring victory over another portion of the law the city council passed, basically saying if you are a legal gun owner in the city of Chicago, you no longer have to register with police. You no longer have to get a permit in the city. The state will take care of that. Is this the right thing to do, Susie?
You know, whether it's right or not, I think the city felt like maybe we need to relax this a little bit. The state's going to take care of it, and this is our opportunity to kind of push in this other law of banning guns in bars and restaurants that sell alcohol. So I feel like in some ways they're like, well, you know, we gave you this, so give us this. And I feel like that might be part of it. But, you know, aside from that, I feel that maybe the state law will take care of that part where the city is letting up.
Harry, do you have something to add to that? You look like
if there's one body that's doing the registering, I don't have a problem, you know, if it's being done properly. The city has, in the past, just been overzealous, I think. I mean, I'm not a proponent of guns at all, but you know, if in fact the state is doing it, I don't see why the city would have to duplicate that.
Now, gun rights advocates have long said Chicago has some of the toughest gun laws in the nation, but yet we've seen gun crimes escalate here in recent years. And their claim is that these tough laws don't work. Harry, do they have a point?
Well, we're going to talk about this later, but, you know, Rahm Emanuel says it's Indiana's fault that the guns are coming from Indiana. So, you know, I think all these laws, when you're restricting guns, you know, does it really restrict, by restricting law-abiding citizens, are you necessarily really solving the problem? You know, maybe, but there's so many other factors that contribute to violence, which is what we're really trying to solve for.
Susie, you nodded your head. Do you have something to add here?
Well, I think when we think of the gun laws here, not all of it, I feel like people who are illegally trafficking these guns, they feel, you know, of course these laws don't apply to us. We're just going to keep going on with this. So maybe getting to the heart of what the problem is, where are these points of entry of these illegal guns getting into the city? That's what the city and the state needs to tackle.
Okay.
And I agree that we're talking to the people, the gun law-abiding citizens, and the problem is the flow of guns. I mean, the flow of illegal guns, trafficking, straw buyers, things of that nature. So that's where the real effort needs to be centered on.
All right. We talked about guns. We talked about Rahm Emanuel making a point about guns. He was on the David Letterman show earlier this week, and one of the topics he discussed was violence in the city. We just saw the clip. And I'm just wondering, does this national exposure, Susie, hint at perhaps some aspirations our mayor may have for higher office?
You know, he says that that he doesn't, but I feel like whenever you see any politician make it onto the national stage, the Late Show, it kind of points to that. And I feel like, you know, politicians are like, well, what's the harm? At least I'm out there, and if I do decide in the future, even though I'm saying I'm not going to do it now, my face is out there and people will remember.
Ron, your thoughts?
It's the politician's handbook, I think, that tells them to always deny, deny, deny. I'm not running for any high. I'm so focused on helping Chicago and have no other aspirations. That's what they always say up until the time that they make that decision. I think just some of his recent actions kind of just even indicate that he does have higher aspirations.
Well, he said he wasn't campaigning when he was on David Letterman, yet he does plan to run for mayor. So how convinced are you of his lack of campaigning on David Letterman?
I don't know. I mean, if you could get on David Letterman when you go on the
Sure.
show. Okay.
Yeah, David Letterman.
That's what I'm talking
and frankly,
about.
I was really disappointed that he didn't get to read the top 10 list, actually.
He would have been helped if he had read the top 10 list, because I got to tell you, I kind of feel like, I mean, this is a guy who's a mayor of the city with the highest concentration of comic talent in the world. I think you should hire a comedy writer. You know,
I think he tried a little too hard to be funny.
Well, he's sort of, you know, it's like he used the same joke twice about, you know, someday when he grows up wanting to really be a late night talk show host. He did it once, then he did it when he was doing the Clinton imitation. I mean, like, you know, he's got potential. You know, but they'll maybe sometime at Improv Olympic or Second City or something like that. You know, just up his game a little bit, you know.
You wouldn't watch his show right now.
I would not. Yeah, if he wants to be a late night talk show host, he's going to have to do a little work.
And how did you think he did? I mean,
I mean, he had his talking points for sure, but when it came to being funny, I felt like, you're trying a little too hard. Just ease up a little bit. And there were some awkward moments where he was saying, "Oh, are you feeling nervous, Dave?" And it just.
He's like, no, because I'm on the show every night. So no, actually, I'm not feeling nervous. I'm good.
This is what I do, right?
All right, we will switch gears again. By the end of the year, there'll be 50 speed cameras up around the city of Chicago. And for a fee, a new app from the folks who brought us Cobra radar detectors will allow you to have alerts sent to your cell phone when you're approaching one of these, but you'll have to pay for them. About $5 a month, $50 a year. Susie, would you pay to get out of red light and speed tickets?
I think maybe I would. And you know, there are free apps that are not as savvy as this one. That it's another user populated app where people will say, "Hey, here's a red light camera or a speed camera at this intersection." So I definitely use the free apps. They don't send me alerts, so I would suggest if you're going to go with the free app, look at your route before you go, so you're not constantly looking at your phone, because that could be another fee for you.
Harry, is this a good idea? To have an app that warns you when the red light cameras come in? Would you pay for it?
No. No, I wouldn't pay for it. But I have to say, though, I kind of like I'm actually a fan of the red light stuff. Weirdly, I mean, even though I've been caught by it a couple of times. I know. Yeah. But you guys have been.
Never.
Wow,
once.
Ron. Did you ever happen to you?
Not yet. Don't jinx me.
So you get the piece of paper in the mail. It's got says, you know, red light violation. And I'm like, what is this? And then you see a picture of your car going through the red light, and you can click on a link, you know, or go into this link and watch a video of your car going through the red light. And you look at it and you're like, okay, well, you got me. I mean, when is justice ever so totally clear? I sort of admire the technology.
Well, I mean, if the ticket is $100 and the app is $5 a month, I guess it's short money if you tend to run red lights or speed.
Yeah, if you have that problem, again, as I say, I've never been caught.
There you go.
Well,
key distinction.
Well, I've never tripped it. But no, I wouldn't pay for an app, but I think some of the free apps, and once you identify where they are, like I know where all the red light cameras are in the areas that I frequent, and so I pay close attention to that. But again, how do you? Nothing is so clear cut in terms of whether you really violated. But you know, yeah. I think this whole thing going into technology is good, but I think it's a little overblown, and I think that the real purpose is not for safety, as everybody pretty much knows by now. It's cash money.
People
and
criticize
I think the revenue is down on the red light camera, so now they're coming up with a new one.
We'll close with one more quick reference to another mode of transportation. A Northside alderman wants to see bikers fined $200 for riding on the sidewalk on Sheridan Road. Is it fair to single out bicyclists? We'll go quickly down the panel. Harry, you first.
Not there. I mean, I actually drove by there this morning, and I'm a guy who drives on the sidewalk if I think my life is in danger. But there's no excuse, because they can go a couple blocks west, turn north, and they don't need to do it. So not there. No, I don't think so.
Bicyclists being singled out?
I agree, and you know, really, what the city needs to do is just enforce the laws that are already there, because people know that they could be ticketed, but the city just doesn't enforce it, so they'll go right along and, you know, right on the sidewalk.
All right, we've got to leave it right here. That's all we have time for. Ron Miller, Susie Ahn, and Harry Gottlieb, we thank you. Now, every so often, it's time to purge your home of the stuff you don't use anymore. The old lawnmower, the broken down water heater, that giant console TV. But have you ever wondered what happens to that junk after you leave it on the curb? As you're about to see, it's big business.
But yeah, I don't mind doing a little work for a little money. That's where it helps to have a good back.
Welcome to the afterlife for broken lawnmowers and appliances past their prime. Where most of us see junk, Mike Apps of suburban Crestwood sees cash. He spent the past 7 years working as a scrapper, trolling the city and suburban streets and alleys in a beat-up blue pickup truck.
Yeah, I just usually go up and down the blocks, and you kind of go slow and you look around. You know, you see something like this, you just look. See if there's any steel in it sometimes. You know.
This is more than just a scavenger hunt. Mike and other scrappers provide a vital service, picking up junk that garbage trucks won't, stuff that clogs landfills already filled to the brim. Scrappers don't need a special license, just a strong back and a sharp eye for what holds value.
Once you get a feel for it, you know, and what day is what and what garbage day is, it all starts coming real natural. I mean, a lot of people, I've seen women, old men do it. I've seen young kids do it.
Mike once worked as a truck driver until he found he could make more money collecting scrap metal than he did behind the wheel. On this day, he strikes gold in a dumpster in Oak Forest.
Come on in, Ray. The water's fine. It is, yeah. This is a gold. This is a gold mine. I look at it like finding money. It's like dollar bills to me.
The economics are pretty simple. The more valuable metal there is, the more money earned. After loading the pickup, it's time to see if Mike's efforts pay off.
It's a little work, but man, it's all right.
His next stop, a scrapyard in Allsip. First, the weigh-in to find out how much metal he's got. Then the drop-off, unloading his findings onto an enormous pile of debris. Kenny Niebuhr and his wife Nicole run American Scrap Metal. He runs the business like a battlefield general.
Hey, are those signs aluminum or steel? Steel. Those are steel? Yes. All right.
The Niebuhrs started from scratch 6 years ago.
We hauled our old RV right to the scrapyard, and we lived there for about 10 months to a year.
Now it's a multi-million-dollar business. Trucks of all shapes and sizes come and go all day long.
They tore down a garage, and they're bringing me to scrap. They're going to get their money. And this is a lot of money here. You're talking about $400 right here, just in the back of this.
Most of this mountain will eventually be melted down and reused. Some of the most valuable scrap, old copper wires.
They got $100,000 sitting right here, done, 100 grand.
Meanwhile, the payday for Mike is nowhere near that amount, but he's happy with the result.
And then there's the total right there, $78 for about 2 hours work. And I like that this stuff isn't going into a landfill or something. I'm helping the environment in this way, you know.
One word of caution here, every town regulates what can be left on the curb as junk. Violate the rules and you could be fined. So check with your local municipality first.
Well, that does it for us tonight. You are now in the loop. The conversation continues right now on WYCC.org.
I'm Barbara Pinto. Until next week, good night.